So I think this is a good starting point for Reed. His shooting, and that not even just movement shooting, shooting off the catch, shooting off the dribble, just in its totality, his entire shot profile may be the most transferable skill that any NBA prospect has in this class. There is almost zero chance that you could convince yourself that Reed Sheppard is not a really good shooter or even a great shooter at the NBA level, given off of what he's shown so far. The efficiency numbers are obviously like out of this world, like above 50% from three and from the field on relatively high volume, though not as high as you may like to see. But his form is absolutely pristine. He has a quick release. It looks the same whether he is shooting off of movement, just off of a spot up, off the dribble. He has the exact same release point and shot prep. He's super balanced. If anything, say he comes in and nothing else translates, his shooting is going to be able to at least give him a shot to get on the floor right away. And that's before you consider the fact that he was one of the most productive defenders in the entire nation last year. Not for freshmen, not for, underclassmen, not for guys in the Power 5 conference. He had incredibly high steal and block rates last year, and especially for somebody that's a 6'3 guard, he was producing a ton of plays on that end. He has a great feel for the game as a playmaker offensively as well, but to me, that shows up right now the most on defense. He plays really hard as well. He's somebody that you can expect to come into practices, come into the gym for the Hornets every day, give their absolute best effort in every single practice, and be somebody that's trying to make the team have like just a different culture, because that's the type of guy that he seems to be at Kentucky. He came in from his small school in Kentucky, was not considered even really like an NBA prospect in the short term at all, especially a one and done. And now he's considered like a top 5 consensus draft pick. So somebody that has that type of work ethic to turn themselves into a prospect, a high level one nonetheless, that quickly, I think obviously has the right type of mentality to be somebody and that you can rely on to work as soon as they get into the NBA and be somebody that's going to attack all their weaknesses and try to improve. So I'm very high on Reed's offensive ability. He also actually was the one that tied with Devin Carter for that 42-inch max vertical record at the Combine this year. So obviously has some athletic flashes as well. So there's a lot to like efficiency and production-wise for Reed Sheppard. Very, very hard to ignore the numbers that he put up this year. He's somebody that's going to pass the analytics tests pretty much no matter how you look at it.
So I agree with you about the shooting and the transferable skill. Like if you were just to put all these guys and give them 100 open shots, I would bank that Reed Sheppard would probably finish first in that drill, like most times. But I'm going to give you a full list of NBA starters who measure under 6'2" without shoes, who start in the NBA. Kyrie Irving, Ja Morant, Damian Lillard, and Tyus Jones. That's it. That's the full list. And Tyus Jones starts because he's on the Wizards. Right? They're essentially 3 players, and they're all all-stars. Ja Morant, one of those insane athletes there is probably been at the guard position and has insane vision, crazy handles. Kyrie Irving, probably the best handle and finishing package in NBA history. Damian Lillard, one of the best shooters in NBA history, and also like a much better athlete, I think, in terms, especially in his young years, he was as well. And just like an outlier. That is it. The path for Reed Sheppard to be a starter is narrow. And he is much more likely to be a third guard, combo guard, kind of off the bench. Just looking at NBA history. That's not even my opinion. That's just NBA history. It tells you he's more likely. For me, he is instantly the kind of guy that you go and hide like your worst defender on. Like if LaMelo Ball was playing against the team of the Reed Sheppard, LaMelo Ball's guarding Reed Sheppard because he's not going to take you to the rim. He's not going to kind of put you in the blender and make you help loads. As long as you like have an awareness of where he is and close out well on him, like you're probably going to be able to force the ball elsewhere. So straight away, when I think about like playoffs and trying to compete, you just don't want to have guys who you can like hide defenders on. And that's something I have concern about. You know, we just saw Peyton Pritchard, look, had a hell of a moment in that last game getting checked in and scoring. But he was in for that one possession. That was it. And he is like what I think some people say, like the medium to low end outcome of
That
Reed
was
Sheppard is.
exactly what I was just gonna say. Would you view him as like a median outcome? Like if Reed Sheppard's career ended up with Peyton Pritchard's like per game averages to this point, is that like a median
Yes, I would.
outcome to you? Okay,
Yeah, I
so
think
that
so.
right. So if that's the case, and I don't think I would agree with that myself. I don't think you'd be the only one to do it. How can you draft that guy third overall with a Peyton Pritchard median outcome? And I love myself some Peyton Pritchard, but he went 27th and probably wouldn't go that much higher. So, it's just I completely agree with you. That is a very difficult proposition to make that high in the draft.
You talked a little bit about him being like barely a top 100 recruit. Then like why if he's the best shooter, in the draft and everything like that, and I know he shot 50 whatever percent from three in Kentucky this year. I've done the deep dive. The shooting is legit. Like, why did no one know about this coming in? Like, there is a train of thought here. Like, what if he's only like a really good shooter and not one of the best shooters in the NBA? Because all of a sudden, then, like, he starts to become like a really interesting player to just like a backup. Like, guys who shot really good percentages in college, like Markelle Fultz shot over 40% from three. Malik Monk shot over 40% from three in college. Aaron Naismith, I believe, shot over 50% from three. Derek Williams, going back, the number 2 overall pick, he shot over 50% from three. Now, look, Derek Williams and Fultz were like, well, especially Williams was on a much lower volume than Reed Sheppard, granted, and it was a different game then. But it is just evidence that just because someone shot like a crazy percentage in college, it does not mean it always translates. He is 6'2", and he doesn't have that good a burst to get separation. What is he going to do when he is OG Anunoby on him, or he has Brandon Miller even on him? Not even like a primary defender, but just like a good guy. I have concern that shot is going to be impacted against NBA length on the NBA line, even though his shooting this year was good. I will say, I watched all of his 3-point attempts this year. He was left open a lot at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what opposing defenses were doing. I give some credit to Rob Dillingham, I think, who probably drew a lot. But Reed Sheppard just got a lot of open looks this year, and I think that really benefited him. I barely even mentioned the defense. Yes, the stocks are great. They're mostly off ball, and I think they give him a baseline as like a good team defender. Luka Doncic will be calling him up for a screen to switch on to him straight away, as every other player will. They will go right at him as a 6'2" white guy who is not overly long, doesn't have long arms. Like, they're going to be putting him in rotations every single night, and he's going to be asked to do a lot. And then when we come into his fit with the Hornets, you look at a Ball Sheppard backcourt, I get the idea. Great, look, 2 elite shooters from 3. Who's scoring in the paint? Who's getting rim pressure? Who is that team guarding defensively? I think it would be a disaster. I think there would no doubt be nights where it looks awesome, where Reed Sheppard, LaMelo would both have 4, 5 threes each, and you'd go, this is so much fun. I don't think you could win consistently every single night. What happens if the shot isn't falling for either of them or both of them? You're losing the game, right? So I think there are some very real concerns about Reed Sheppard that need to be taken into account.
I know it was my job for the glass half full, but I completely agree. This is probably one of the very few prospects that would be someone that I like actively do not prefer for the Charlotte Hornets with the 6th pick. I don't think the athleticism is going to translate. I completely agree about the defense. I feel like he gets lost off ball a lot too for somebody that like still gets a lot of steals. Like, he's not the most engaged, I guess, when he's an off ball team defender. So yeah, I know I made the glass half full approach, but I think I lean more towards your argument with that one.